10. Springtrap. Craftix Gaming's YouTube channel features a video of a real Springtrap costume, and honestly, it's terrifying. Springtrap is the main animatronic of FNAF 3, and this costume is freaking nuts. This is a very good costume, and while Springtrap may not be the scariest animatronic, he's not someone I'm gonna want to tussle with. However, I want to talk about what's going on with this character because, my guy, you dressed up as a possessed man who is inhabiting an animatronic, unable to die but still decaying. You are quite literally dressing up as a serial killer. Like in the FNAF world, if you dressed up like this, it'd be like if you dressed up as Ted Bundy in this world. And if you want to be in FNAF that badly, okay, don't dress as the serial killer, is all I'm saying. And I know that's ironic coming from me, okay, given what I'm dressed like at this moment. Do I look like I want to be in Five Nights at Freddy's? Have I made things seem like I want to be in this world? Because if I have, you need to watch more of these videos, okay? Also, I'm dressed up as the purple guy who makes no appearance in the actual FNAF world, okay? There is no actual, okay, there is the actual purple guy, but he doesn't look like this, okay? The purple guy that I am dressed as is not actually a real version of the serial killer in their world, okay? I don't want to be in that world. Those doors aren't it, Chief. They ain't it. No, the doors ruin it for me. And 9, Scrap Baby. Scrap Baby is a creepy animatronic. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Scrap Baby is by far creepier than the normal baby animatronic, and this costume certainly does it justice. Animatronics are a difficult costume to really make, since we're people, and unfortunately do not have robotic limbs for the most part. Or if we do, we typically try to make it look like a real leg instead of a robot leg. But a Scrap Baby is even more difficult since, you know, it's a scrap animatronic, and it has a giant freaking claw in its hand. Scrap Baby is a very damaged and recycled version of Baby with a realistic reddish orange kind of bodysuit, light blue stuff, yellow pigtails, and okay, she wears an orange top with red frills, and it's just super damaged, okay? Like this, she's very damaged. Mentally and physically. Yet somehow Instagram user Gaius Bazzani was able to recreate this in an awesome way. So, very well done. And at 8, Vanny. With Vanny being an upcoming villain and already one of the most popular characters in the series, there are bound to be plenty of costumes of her. However, this one from Rojito Uwu on Twitter is probably the most accurate and creepiest one I've seen. Vanny being a reluctant follower does in a way technically make this a glitch trap cosplay as well, but we won't really talk about that because that's not what counts. This costume is probably the most realistic costume on this list because, well, Vanny in the games ended up making her own suit and is just a human inside, whereas like the other characters like Scrap Baby or Springtrap are animatronics as well as sometimes part human, be it soul or another body. And Rojito's costume follows the exact same concept as Vanny, just a person who makes their own suit, which makes this potentially one of the scariest things of all. I mean, technically it's not the same thing because they're not possessed and enticed to make it by the person possessing their brain, but I mean, it's close enough. I mean, they could be possessed for all we know. I don't know. And it's 7, Nightmare Animatronics. While not the epitome of horror, the Nightmare Animatronics are certainly not the nicest of fellows. Not only that, but they are in fact not real. They're supposed to be in your brain, which makes them even more terrifying if you ask me. Because not only do these like illusions cause horrific visions to anyone who knows about them, they also end up killing a coma patient. Crying Child, as we know, is in the hospital in FNAF 4, making this game just a nightmare. However, getting caught by one of these animatronics causes him so much stress that he actually dies, which is absolutely insane when you look at it like that. These are so scary to him that it gives him a legit heart attack, or just makes his heart stop working entirely, since we know that's what happens instead of brain death at the end of the game, thanks to the flatline at the end, which is horrible and incredibly sad, but also terrifying. And it's 6, Nightmare Freddy. Nightmare Freddy is one of the most iconic versions of the character, even if there are only 3 games that feature this guy, those being FNAF 4, Ultimate Custom Night, and FNAF ER. However, this Nightmare Freddy cosplay is insane, and in my opinion would have been our front runner for the Coupe de France cosplay competition that it was for back in 2017. The video was uploaded by YouTube channel Gorgon Geek, and this guy plays the robot thing really well, but as soon as he drops that microphone he goes into terror mode, and it's certainly something to behold. I would have enjoyed it if he had like the little frettles with him, but the moving mouth is certainly a nice touch, especially with the attempted jump scares they do in the video, because he just goes like ah and stuff. Like, imagine if this guy had started twerking though. At one point I thought he was going to. He went to pick up the mic and I thought he was just going to start busting it, but no. I think that would have won them gold though. If you get this, out of here. If you had started twerking, my guy, you would have won. I don't know what place you came in, but if you'd twerked, you would have won. Halfway through into number 5, RWQFSFASXC. Shadow Bonnie makes an appearance in FNAF 2, but is more so a main character in FNAF 3, where the character makes an ultimate appearance as a glitched out game character, and as a statue that you need to click on to enable the glitched minigame. It's weird, okay? Shadow Bonnie has also made an appearance in the FNAF AR game. This character has been everywhere. RWQFSFASXC is just a pitch black version of Toy Bonnie with glowing eyes and teeth. It's pretty weird when you think about it, and in all honesty, it doesn't really make sense, but who knows, alright? It's Shadow Bonnie. No matter, being just a void of pitch black energy can make any animatronic scary, and honestly, we don't know how Shadow Bonnie came into being. There are some theories that it was someone who got springlocked in the suit before Afton, or that somebody got killed, but we don't know for sure, and that makes it even scarier. Either way, I'm glad that this thing can't haunt me in real life, because I really do like lighting. I like electricity. Yeah, if Shadow Bonnie was real, I would be rough. I would be in a rough spot. Honestly, streaming would be difficult. And at 4, Nightmare. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Nightmare is the scariest animatronic from the games, hands down. This guy will get me every time, and it's one of those reasons I just refuse to play FNAF 4. The other is Nightmare Fredbear, but at least I don't have to deal with them in real life, right? They're only a nightmare character created in the mind of a coma patient in a video game, right? Well, guess again. Thanks to Bunny Creations on Amino Apps, we get both Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear. Ironically, Nightmare Fredbear is played by their twin sister. And I mean, it's ironic because, well, Elizabeth Afton is sometimes presumed to be Crying Child's twin sister. Anyway, these absolute hulking costumes are going to make me drop a load of my pants. Like, if I saw this in real life, holy crap. Like, imagine actually living in a house that is at least kind of laid out like the one from FNAF 4. And then your kids want to play a prank on you. My grandparents' house is kind of laid out like this. It's not as simple as just 2 halls on either side of the room, but like they have the master bedroom does have 2 doors. So theoretically, that's something that can be reenacted there. I don't want to do that. No. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, human robots. This is something I'm sure people won't think is scary, okay? Some scary good, maybe, but hey, the fact that there are robots that are actually able to look like humans is terrifying. Like, that's such a scary thing. In the original FNAF novel trilogy, it's revealed that Charlotte, the main protagonist of the books, is in fact one in a series of 4 robots meant to allow her to grow up properly after being killed at an early age. But not only is she a robot, also apparently she's also Baby. At least from what I remember reading about the books, Charlotte's robot was also able to look like Baby thanks to the pins on her body that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, that is the epitome of horror. Who in their right mind would think of a concept like that? And then, what if it was real? Like, we would all be goners. Like, imagine the fembots from Austin Powers. That's basically this. And then all the down bads would be trying to give it to them, and then they'd get themselves scooped. I'm surprised it didn't happen in the actual novels, since that one guy had his gears turning, if you know what I mean.
And if you do, can you please explain it to me, because I'm not even quite sure what I said there.
And ultimately, in at number 2, Twisted Freddy. Holy ever living hell, okay? This is a horrific masterpiece that I could only hope to achieve. This full body Twisted Freddy costume is probably one of the most horrific FNAF costumes I've ever seen. Especially because I believe that the Twisted animatronics are probably the scariest version of the animatronics present in the novels, and a solid tie for the scariest animatronics alongside the nightmare ones from FNAF 4. This is some pretty damn expert craftsmanship if you ask me, though, okay? This is a full body suit, and it blows my freaking mind. Like, look at this. It would weigh a ton, and it would definitely need a hander, especially if my clumsy was the one walking around in it, but it straight up looks like if Freddy Krueger were an animatronic. And I mean, I'm not mad about it in the slightest, but like, it's still freaking creepy. So, well done, DeRegular Sauce, who is the Twitter user behind this glorious creation. Well done. And finally, in at number 1, Withered Bonnie. This Withered Bonnie cosplay is probably the scariest damn FNAF cosplay I've ever seen. This is incredible and comes from the YouTube user The Nick of Time. At first I legitimately thought that this was CGI instead of an actual costume, but lo and behold, it was just an insane costume. Glowing eyes and seemingly actually aluminum parts, and a chest that opens up that you can push it out with your other hand, which is honestly actually a decent scare. Frankly, in the video I was kind of taken aback when they did that, so in real life I'm sure that it was results in at least a bit of a jump scare, but this kind of thing always impresses the hell out of me, because like the closest I've come to making a full costume was when I helped someone work on one of theirs. But that's the closest I've gotten. Hey, I made like a lightning bolt for the chest, and I made paper cup, like bracers, that's about it. This is hella impressive to me. I don't understand how people do this. In at 10, Piranha Plushtrap. Piranha Plushtrap is Plushtrap's second skin in FNAF AR and the third skin in the Wicked Tides event. He was released on June 7, 2021 after being delayed by 3 days for unknown reasons. Alright, we made a community post about this one, and personally I think that this is one of the scariest FNAF AR skins ever added. Piranha Plushtrap is hardly like the original Plushtrap, but this one is much worse. Being made of a more organic flesh-like material, even having realistic gums, his mouth is littered with long, thin, sharp teeth, and his eyes are extremely small and glow an ocean blue. What the hell? On the sides of his head there are 2 glowing orange gills, and his feet glow that same orange. His hands also have orange webbing in between his fingers that stretches when they move, obviously that's what webbing does, and his ears are covered in small barnacles. And his mouth, stomach, and right leg, oh don't get me started, they're covered in algae. Finally, his body is covered in spikes, and his torso is split open to reveal his ribs. This thing is horrifying. I hope we get him in another game, not just special delivery, but I don't want him in real life. I would rather dig myself out of a hole with a rusty fork, honestly. In at 9, Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy is a mysterious ghost-like entity that takes the form of a yellow animatronic bear. He plays a prominent role in the FNAF series, although his origins are cryptic and unknown. But many speculate that Crying Child, at least at one point, possessed the animatronic, which would be an easy confirmation to make in the movie, but I mean, oh well. On the other hand, many also believe that Golden Freddy is possessed by Cassidy, and that Cassidy is also the vengeful spirit, aka the one you should not have killed from Ultimate Custom Night, although in my research it is much more likely that Crying Child is the vengeful spirit and that Cassidy is the one that possesses Golden Freddy. Since firstly it makes for a better story, and in all honesty Cassidy has no significance to the greater story, or at least they have less significance than Crying Child. However, while confirmation for any explanation would be appreciated, I'm glad that this ain't real, alright? I don't need to be hallucinating, okay? I already see weird things enough, and these things are real, especially when I have to scroll through things for FNAF research, so I would rather not hallucinate, like posters changing, or someone saying it's me in front of me. I don't want that, alright? So, it's a good thing Golden Freddy isn't real, otherwise I would probably have already been put in an insane asylum, instead of them trying to. And at 7, Enard. Costumes don't really have to be elaborate to be scary. Take for example this Enard cosplay by YouTube channel Skywarped33. The entire endoskeleton spaghetti bits aren't there, but the lights and sounds make it even more frightening than you'd think. The face also opens up, and I think that we all know how I feel about animatronics who can move their face at will at this point, okay? It's not something that should be allowed. However, even without all the parts and the eyes, this Enard cosplay is not something I would want to run into in a dark alley, especially not after that goddamn vent repair minigame that caused me to have some serious issues, okay? It's rough, okay? I used to like spaghetti. Man, like now what am I supposed to do? And it ate Circus Baby. Circus Baby is one messed up mamma jamma. I mean, don't get me wrong, some specific kids make me get William's whole MO, but the fact that he made these robots, especially the fun times, specifically to kill, and then the first kid they kill is his own daughter, that's some serious karma. But considering how horrific Baby becomes after this, thanks to Elizabeth, I feel like she may have had it coming. Girl was a lot more like her father than she should have been, in all honesty. While yes, crushing any kid would have been bad, I mean like your creator's daughter, seriously? Like come on bro, was there no way to blacklist William? You have the animatronics that can walk on their own with advanced AI, facial recognition technology, sound discs that can change what things look like, but you can't make a goddamn program that says do not kill these kids, they come from me. Like, bro, if you ask me, you had it coming. Who tells their kids not to do something especially expecting them to listen? Seriously, dude, William is stupid, but this was still a messed up thing to do, so I'm glad that this isn't real until the kids start screaming in my hall again, and then I wish Baby was real. Halfway through in number 5, Fetch. Fetch was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books and is a robotic dog made by Fazbear Inc. that gets a little too loving. So much so that it will actually brutally murder the girl you ask to homecoming, even though her dad is a supervillain. Sorry, Peter, but at least you won't have to feel bad about sending your dad to prison. Either way, a robotic dog that will kill anything you love is absolutely terrifying and should be taken care of as soon as possible. Like, this is why you spay and neuter your animals, people. That's why The Price is Right would always say that. But in all seriousness, could you imagine if this thing was real? Like, if you randomly started getting texts from a robotic dog that followed you home, that instead of bringing you dead birds or squirrels, instead brings you the bloody arm of your crush. That sounds like something the Winchesters would end up fighting after it was manifested by some, like, 7-year-old. Oh, that would, yeah. It's like how they find a body in one of those crime shows, like Bones, and they're like, oh, this robotic dog just found this rotting arm and then put it in my bed. Like, that's like Palant levels of crazy, and if you know, you know. In it for Gregory. Honestly, I'm actually scared of Gregory. The knowledge that this kid has exceeds even some of my own. This kid is the size of a 4-year-old, can fit inside Freddy, baby strollers, and other various small areas around the Pizzaplex. He's too small to drive one of the go-karts alone, but he knows how to restart generators, operate a trash compactor, start and drive a car, as well as identify a car battery, connect the jumper cables on that car battery properly, and then use those cables to fix Freddy's whole recharge every hour issue. How the living hell does that make any sense? Plus, Gregory is just a killer. This kid is easily able to destroy all 3 animatronics without a moment's hesitation and then use their upgrades on Freddy. He is willing to kill Vanny, like I said, despite actually seemingly knowing her, as we see in the best ending, and he burns Burntrap multiple times in an attempt to stop him from taking control over Freddy. So what the absolute living hell is this kid doing, and how is he just so nonchalant about the whole thing? And the argument for self-defense doesn't count because I kept seeing that a lot, okay? Because self-defense requires the proper use of force against your attacker, and tearing someone to shreds using 6 animatronics is not proper force. It was so gory that they couldn't even show it in the comic for that ending. Like, Jesus! Getting close to the end in at number 3, Glitch Trap. We know my issue with Glitch Trap, alright, okay? We know that I just want to watch William Afton burn and then leave him there permanently, hence why I'm wearing the costume. But I want him to, actually be in hell and then stay there while we move on with another killer or something else in the series. Please, for God's sake, Scott. I hate this always comes back thing that he's got going on. And despite being dressed as Purple Guy, I want William dead. So, when I saw this frighteningly realistic looking Glitch Trap costume, my nerves hit an all-time high. I think the sheer simplicity of the Glitch Trap suit is certainly something that makes this a creepy costume, since the stitches are very accentuated here. They're very clear on this version. Like, it might be like the higher contrast than like the actual suit in the games, because like you know that they're there, but you can't really tell. But like, either way, this is creepy. Plus, again, it's another version of William goddamn Afton, who already haunts my nightmares. So what the heck, Bundy Creations, again, on Twitter this time. Why do you gotta do this to me? Huh? Why? Bro? And finally, in at number 1, the nightmares. I think that if this was really meant to be a horror series, which it is, the nightmare animatronics should be everywhere. Honestly, they are absolutely terrifying. The normal animatronics aren't really all that scary. The scariest part about those games, like with the Springtrap jump scares, the sound that plays with the animatronic jump scares. But the nightmares are truly terrifying, and one of the reasons that I don't want to play FNAF 4 or the Night Terror levels of Help Wanted. These things are so horrifying, but also iconic, especially since they're the reason there was a FNAF movie. And like, my nightmares are already screwed up enough, alright? Especially with all the things that I've seen looking up FNAF, alright? It's not your typical nightmare, I'll tell you that. But if they were real, and I actually had to defend my room against these animatronics, I don't think that I would. I think that I would just let it happen, because you know what, that's too stressful for me, and I'm kind of over it. So, yeah, glad these aren't real. And 10 mini arenas. Why are the mini arenas so damn creepy? Like, they're not scary per se, but they literally tear Berella to pieces, so that's something, at least. Like, the mini arenas are basically the robotic version of those kids, like, in your neighborhood that are always screaming or causing trouble at all hours of the day. And like, you know, they go to a nearby school so that you literally always have to deal with them no matter what. Or they run down the street when you knock on their door to see their older brother, and then their family is so damn lazy that you have to take off after him running down the street and after him because his family's not going to do anything, even though it's literally a toddler running down the street in nothing but a diaper at 11 in the morning. And then you catch him in front of your other friend's house, and then you end up having that kid pull your hair, kicking and punching you all the way back to his house. At least he wasn't screaming, because then you might have gotten arrested. Then they don't even thank you. Did I just say all that out loud? Okay, well, my old neighbors were trash. Okay, that's a story for another day, but that's what the mini arenas remind me of, except they can kill me or stuff themselves into my body while I sleep in order to escape their underground storage facility. And I don't think that kid was gonna do that. And it ate the scooper. Now, I know you may be mad and think that this is like a stupid point, but like, hear me out, okay? The scooper may seem like a weird but kinda normal thing, at least by FNAF standards at first, but with the blueprint revealing how this actually works, this thing is an incredible piece of technology. It can inject whatever it ends up scooping with Remnant, a molten metal possessed by souls, that is capable of keeping a person alive after removing their insides, as we see with Michael. Replacing it, because, you know, he gets his innards replaced with Enards, and then, like, you know, is able to walk around, and then after those robotic parts leave his body, he can still just chill, in essence, making him just a walking case of flesh. Unless it didn't actually remove anything and instead just opened him up and then had the animatronics go around his bones, but that would still require some serious juice to keep alive, and that's pretty damn impressive. But also horrifying, because while he may look more like he's just bruising, if the purple on Michael's skin is actually decay like some suggest, that remnant injector is actually able to animate a dead corpse, in essence creating zombies, which would then start a zombie apocalypse, and that's been done to death, no pun intended, so you should all understand how bad of an idea that is, okay? Zombie apocalypses generally aren't good, especially animatronic fueled zombie apocalypses created by intense agony possessed metal that gets injected into someone's no-no square. And at 7, Burn Trap. Burn Trap is higher on this list because while some people may consider him a waste in Security Breach, it was certainly a surprise. We figured that Afton would come back, as he always does, however we never thought that he would actually come back like this. We figured that there would be more ceremony to a resurrection. However, Burn Trap was certainly not expected, or at least I didn't expect a new form of Afton to appear. I figured that we'd have Scrap Trap or even Glitch Trap, but no. During the fight against him, Burn Trap walks between 3 different rooms on the other side of the underground pizzeria. Gregory has to watch for which room Burn Trap is currently in, and then press the corresponding button when he attempts to take control of Glamrock Freddy. Doing so causes the room to erupt into flames and hurts him because, you know, fire, and stops the corruption attempt. Failure to do so, and in time, Glamrock Freddy's eyes will turn purple, making him hostile towards Gregory, and then you'll probably die. But you know what? I'm damn glad he's not real, because that would have way too many implications, and I already have a hard enough time trying to figure out the mysteries of FNAF. I don't need to try and figure out the mysteries of the universe as well. So, yeah, or even the multiverse, because that's how Burn Trap would be here. So yeah, no thanks. And at 6, the Twisted Ones. Well, the Twisted Ones do certainly seem to live up to their name. The Twisted Animatronics are these horribly disfigured creatures that get no love from their mother, unlike an ugly duckling. The thing is, these don't grow into swans. Instead, they use another bit of tech that I'll get into later to disguise themselves. They also dig deep into the ground and wait until the middle of the night to crawl out and then take kids who wander away from their mommies. This legit sounds like some urban legend that parents tell their kids to make sure they stay home or get home after dark. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about them. That's the way the news goes. Halfway through into number 5, Buff Helpy. Okay, this may not be a cosplay, but Buff Helpy is probably the most disturbing non-cosplay character I can really include on this list. If you didn't already know, Buff Helpy is a meme that was created on a Daco FNAF meme review video and has ever since been haunting him and the rest of the community. Don't get me wrong, okay? I love Helpy. But this Buff Helpy meme has generated a whole load of Buff FNAF character ideas, and it terrifies me now. There's nowhere is safe from these creations. If you look up any character, you're bound to find a buff version of them at some point. You just need to scroll down enough, okay? It's one of the rules of the internet, okay? Same thing with what happens to Chica. But no matter what, this is just some psychological torment that I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, actually. But I'm talking about it because, like, it's Halloween, and the world is currently my worst enemy, so if I have to look at this thing on a regular basis when I'm writing these goddamn lists, you have to look at it for this one number, okay? One number. That's all I ask. And at 4, Lonely Freddy. Lonely Freddy already in a way has a parallel in our world, kind of. Like that trope where someone becomes your friend and then becomes more like you and then tries taking over your life. I feel like that's a thing, but maybe I dreamt that ages ago and forgot about it, but I mean, it's possible, but also just plain old identity theft is another version of Freddy, okay? Identity theft isn't a joke, Jim. A Lonely Freddy was introduced in the Fazbear Frights books and is basically meant to explain what psychic friend Fredbear is, but a robot that steals your body and then traps your consciousness into its original robot body. What the ever-loving hell? Why is that so goddamn terrifying, especially in concept? But what if it was actually a thing? Well, it's easy to say that we would just try to avoid them, but we wouldn't know that they exist. We would just be lonely kids dreaming about having friends and someone who doesn't hurt you when all of a sudden a robot wants to be our friend. It would be vicious and definitely would have gotten me when I was a kid. Hell, it could get me now. Like, I legit wanted a robot friend because they wouldn't end up turning on me or something like that. And then here we go. Here's this. I just wanted someone to play games with. And if those people ended up not being people but instead robots, I would have been fine with it. That would have been fine with me. Except these would have taken over my body, so that would have kind of been a bummer. But that begs the question, when you get put inside the Lonely Freddy, would you then get the ability to take over another person's body, or would you just be trapped in there permanently? Either way, it's terrifying, but I want to know. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Chica. While it may seem counterintuitive for me not to want Chica to be real, I think it's probably best if she isn't. You see, I have this perfect scenario in my head that works well enough that I'm satisfied with the story that I've concocted about the relationship between Chica and I. However, if it was real, that would first make all the things even worse than they already are, in the sense that I'd be talking about a real thing and not a video game character. And then I'd have the awkward moment of her or her creator possibly knowing that I've said all these things. She'd know if her AI was good enough, but the creator would definitely know. And let's be honest, things would not play out like I say they would play out if Chica was real, okay? I wouldn't have all the attention, she wouldn't be chasing me, plus she's a robot and that's probably sad. We all think the movie Her is incredibly cringe, right? I feel like that's a general consensus. Well, if Chica was real, I would be dangerously close to living that reality. But this way, it's harmless fun. If she was real, it wouldn't be. Could a robot sue me? Her creator could. Penultimately, in at number 2, the spring locks. The spring lock mechanisms is probably the most intuitive thing that FNAF World's invented. The ability to move robotic parts out of the way enough for a human to fit inside is insane, and while it may be dangerous, we also drive over 100 kilometers per hour in huge metal death boxes, so can we really complain? Yes we can. Because while yes, cars have their faults, they are nothing compared to the ability to be both animatronic and suit. And then, that's an incredible feat of technology. People keep saying that spring locks actually exist in the comments, and I don't think that's true, okay? No one has ever given me a source, and it's not a thing, okay? Yet, these are also terrifying because of the same reasons in game. Someone can dress in it and pretend to be a robot, and then everything can clamp down on you in any second, as it has multiple times before. It can trap you, okay? It could, if it were real, crush you, and do everything that we learn about from the books and the games, okay? It would basically just make your life hell for fun, especially when it can be a robot, and the man who was once inside of it can smile knowing that you and all your friends can't fight off a huge hunk of metal. But also, like, I would never get into one of those things. Like, even if there hadn't been an incident, that seems like a final destination moment. I wouldn't do it, even if it's in my contract. If they tell me get in this or you're fired, I quit. Like, God. Or actually, no, I let them fire me so I get a severance package, if they have one. And then I can sue them for wrongful termination. And finally, in number 1, the Illusion sound discs. I used to mention these a lot, at the very least, because these are astounding. If you didn't already know, in the original FNAF novel trilogy, it was revealed that the Twisted One's animatronics used discs that changed how others saw them, basically creating an illusionary appearance using sound emitted from that disc that messed with your brainwaves. However, the mere existence of these discs puts everything we know about the series into question. Like, how do we know that anything is real? FNAF 1 has us hallucinate multiple different things like it's me, along with multiple news clippings and posters. What if that was all the discs? And if it was, what if other things were changed by the discs as well? Like, what does the pizzeria really look like? Do the animatronics have different appearances than what we actually see? Are they more rotten? And given that they were leaking mucus and blood beforehand, I feel like they should have been decommissioned. But if this technology existed, I would have trust issues even more so than I do now. Honestly, this might exist, and we just don't know about it. Disney is probably using it because they're like the evil corporation of the world, right? That's a thing, is that we're never getting sponsored by Disney, but that's fine. And at 10, Brian Wells. This is certainly an interesting case that you may not really think relates to William, but let me explain my thought process. Brian Douglas Wells was an American pizza delivery driver who was killed during a complex bank robbery plot. The plot involved a collar bomb, a scavenger hunt, the robbery itself, and a pizza delivery man. Following an attempt to rob PNC Bank, Wells was surrounded by police. That's when the bomb around his neck ended up detonating, killing him. And while his family denies that he was a part of it, investigators and a federal prosecutor concluded that Wells was a knowing participant in the bank robbery. However, he was told that the bomb was fake, and he did not know that his co-conspirators intended for him to die. Now, I think that it was probably detonated because he got caught and they didn't want him to rat on them, and that is the prevailing theory amongst these people as well, amongst the prosecutor and whatnot. But aside from being a pizza delivery man for Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, what possible connection could he have to Afton? Well, being killed by a device that was supposed to be safe, for one, the spring locking and the collar, being betrayed by your peers, in William's case most likely Henry, and the affinity for complex plans. I feel like this may have been at least a slight source of inspiration, especially since this came up when I searched for pizza place serial killers, because I was hoping that there would be one. That's weird to say. Let's just move on. And at 9, Andrew Cunanan. Andrew Cunanan was born in San Diego, California, and eventually settled in San Francisco's Castro district and socialized with older, wealthy gay men while indulging heavily in illicit substances. It's unclear what set him off, but he began a cross-country killing spree of 5 unknown victims, the last of which was actually fashion designer Gianni Versace. Cunanan killed himself on a Miami boathouse in 1997, and if that didn't set off an alarm, congratulations, you have not been ruined by FNAF yet. However, William Afton also had 5 victims at least, but definitely only had 5 when FNAF 1 and even around FNAF 2 was released. And while FNAF 1 does take place in 1993, many have theorized it to instead take place in 1997, which is unlikely given the minimum wage of the times and the connection to another real person, but nonetheless, it's certainly an interesting case of more possible dates lining up and the same number of victims. You know, a lot of people on this list are actually going to have 5 victims, and it's extremely creepy. And at 8, Nathan Dunlap. In December of 1993, after Chuck E. Cheese had closed in Aurora, Colorado, Margaret Kohlberg, who was the manager of this Chuck E. Cheese, was tallying receipts in the back room. While she was doing that, Bobby Stevens was scrubbing down the kitchen, and Ben Grant, Colleen O'Connor, and Sylvia Crawwell were all working in the main party area. However, there was someone hiding in the bathroom, 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap, who earlier that year had begun working as a cook, but was fired after an argument over his hours. But this time he was looking for for revenge. He exited the bathroom and began firing, killing everyone in the building. First Sylvia, then Ben, then Colleen, then he went into the kitchen where he shot Bobby, although Bobby ended up surviving and was actually a key witness in his case. Then Nathan went to the back room, where Margaret opened the safe before being shot twice. Nathan filled her bag with $1,500 cash, arcade tokens, and keychains, but thanks to the security cameras, he was promptly arrested and sentenced to death. Thanks to MatPat and his first game theory on FNAF, this one is fairly well known, hence why it's closer to the top, but if I didn't include it, I feel like everyone in the comments would have asked me why, so there you go. In at 7, menu. We don't currently have a proper menu for the Fazbear service yet, but currently what we know is that according to Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, the easy to execute menu features craveable pizza rolls with a unique twist and game tie-ins that new and current fans will want to order over and over again. Now, whether the unique twist is death or a special topping is one thing, however, I'm pretty sure that we can all guess they'll also be serving pizza with a variety of customizable topping, especially according to their Twitter, since they did ask what our favorite pizza topping was in a tweet. I'm disappointed that there weren't more favorite pizza place jokes in there in those replies. However, based on the comments on our first short on the subject, there are going to be some scarier replies to that tweet as well, because it's Twitter. Luckily, I don't think they'll be adding fingers to the meat add-ons. We can also guess that they'll be serving similar stuff to like a normal Chuck E. Cheese or a pizza place, so soda, chicken as well, because Chica, I'm guessing, mini brownies, and probably a small variety of desserts. They may even have cake, because it's supposed to be a place you can go for your birthday, which I think would make the most sense, but only if the kitchen that ends up taking on this additional menu would also normally make cake. And at 6, Ted Bundy. During an interview with Daco, PJ Haywood, the voice actor for William Afton in sister location FNAF AR and Ultimate Custom Night, said that Scott Cawthon described William as being a charismatic, smooth-talking snake oil salesman, which coincides with Book William being able to convince anyone of anything. This is actually very similar to how Ted Bundy had been described. Bundy was regarded as charismatic and handsome, traits that he exploited to win the trust of both his victims and society as a whole. He would typically approach his victims in public places, either feigning a physical impairment such as an injury or impersonating an authority figure, before bludgeoning them until they were unconscious. While he did operate nearly a decade before Afton started his spree, those are merely just like year numbers. But one of the most interesting facts, however, is that in 1975, Bundy was arrested and jailed in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. In Utah, where the games and the crimes of Afton take place. Halfway through, in at number 5, Twitter hoax. The Twitter account of Diamond Zia on June 27, 2020 tweeted out 3 photos with the line of FNAF will be real in 48 hours. These pictures were of news articles. One from the USA Today titled 5 children have gone missing inside Chuck E. Cheese. Parents report smells coming ... One from the Associated Press called post-hour worker at Chuck E. Cheese reported dead at 27. And a final one from Something News titled Night Shift Workers at Chuck E. Cheese's claim strange movements from animatronics during post hours. However, this title had animatronics spelt incorrectly. It said animatronics. Everyone was freaking out at these pictures of the articles, okay, particularly the first one, and they were shared all over the internet, okay? People were losing their minds, especially because this was around the time where Chuck E. Cheese was closing. However, people didn't realize that these were fake, okay? How are they fake, you ask? Simple source code editing. Well, okay, it's simple to me because I know how to do it, but if you don't know, it may seem complicated. But in reality, you can change what anything says on any website, but it will only change for you until you reload the page by editing the source code. All you need to do is like find the aspect that you're looking for after you right click and click inspect. Yeah, like especially on Google Chrome, it's easy. Once you do that, like once you find the aspect, you can change it to whatever you want. You can change pictures, you can change titles, you can do whatever. So whoever made the original image had found an article potentially already about Chuck E. Cheese closing from USA Today and then changed the title to 5 children go missing. And the same thing with the other articles. Hence why there were only images of the articles and not the actual links, okay? It was a hoax that blew up and people actually believed it, and some still do, and something that's related to this restaurant, but it's not, okay? That was all fake, and plus that was 2 years ago, alright? There's no relation between those at all. In at 4, Donald Harvey. Harvey belonged to a group of psychos known as the Angels of Mercy who claimed to kill for the benefit of the victim. Harvey was convicted of 37 of his more than 57 suspected murders, and he confessed to as many as 87. When Harvey was hired at the Cincinnati VA Medical Hospital, he managed to collect over 30 pounds of cyanide which he had kept in his home. He also kept diaries and detailed notes on each one of his victims, including how he killed them. That gives me just that's intense William Afton vibes. Like, not for some certain reasons, but the delusion of him thinking that he was doing it for the benefit of the victims or just for any benefit it's horrifying, okay? It's the exact same kind of delusion that I could see William having. And a similar delusion to what he seems to have in the games. In the books, he's not exactly like this from my memory, but the game version certainly seems to be the type, okay? Especially given his appearance in the Foxy Go 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 minigame where he's smiling. And at 3, therapy. Some of these comments make me really think that there should be a group fund for FNAF fan therapy sessions because, dear lord, I make a lot of jokes, okay? But like, I hope that these comments are jokes or supposed to be funny because, fingers as toppings? You want to watch the bite of 83 or 87? What the actual The comments on our first short about this delivery service, ignore me pronouncing first wrong, are very concerning if anything is supposed to be real. Okay, this is a part of why Scott kept saying that he wasn't going to make a real FNAF. And I think that this is like the best way that he could compromise to make it happen for the people who were good and wanted it, instead of, you know, the people like this. Like, why would he want to make an actual location if people keep commenting stuff like this? Seriously, I feel genuine concern for you if you're being serious about wanting to possess an animatronic. Yeah, be a fan of the series and love the series as much as you want. Don't sacrifice your life to try to make the series real. Okay, that's not a good thing. Look at all the bad things that happened in the series. Plus, possession isn't real, especially in the same way that FNAF's possession works, okay? That's entirely fictional. And besides, there is no actual FNAF restaurant or location for you to go to anyway, so please stop commenting it, at least on our videos, so I don't have to see it. Ignorance is truly bliss. And ultimately, in at number 2, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, as I'm sure you know, was an American serial killer who killed 33 young men and boys. Gacy regularly performed at children's hospitals and charitable events as Pogo or Patches the Clown, personas that he had devised. He became known as the Killer Clown due to his public services as a clown prior to the discovery of these crimes, but jeez. Gacy committed all of the crimes inside of his ranch house, which is a horrible idea, just like William killing inside of his own pizzeria. Typically, he would lure a victim to his home and then dupe them into donning handcuffs on the pretext of demonstrating a magic trick. And while this is absolutely disgusting and really makes me sick to my stomach, there are still a few similarities to Afton. Okay, killing in a place related to you. For Gacy, it was his ranch house, and for Afton, it's his business. The target demographic is also the same with young people, although Afton also killed girls, which I don't even want. And while you may think that this is a stretch, even FNAF itself made the connection with FNAF AR through the clown springtrap skin. Intentional or not, come on, that's a connection. And finally, in at number 1, Robert Berella. Robert Berella is, to me, the seemingly perfect inspiration for William Afton. Not only did this man own his own business called Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, where he reportedly sold human skulls, but he also seemingly started his killing spree in 1984. The MO is certainly not the same. Berella would drug and kidnap men that he met in bars and on the streets, but the same idea of killing people you meet in a restaurant scene is carried over to William. There is no confirmed inspiration for William, hence this list, but there are certainly a decent amount of similarities between these two. In fact, if you combine like all the serial killers we talked about on this list, especially these last 4, you'll basically get a real William Afton, and I don't like that, okay? That's horrifying. But again, that was the point of this list, so it was a way for me to talk about FNAF without having to talk about FNAF, okay? I didn't go into too much detail with these because, well, I'm sure you can guess why, but yeah. Either way, I think that this is a pretty... The similarities are scary. That's all I have to say. And at 10, it's real, okay? A lot of people couldn't tell if I was being serious or not in the shorts, okay? And I guarantee you that this is actually real. This isn't something I'm making up. It's not a hoax. It's actually a thing. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is real. Or, well, is going to be Kind of. Because of the company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible, called Virtual Dining Concepts, they did announce that they partnered with Scott Cawthon to take the first ever fictional video game setting and turn it into a real-life delivery restaurant, okay? Emphasis on the delivery part on that, however, because I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location that you can walk into. I'm going to be saying this a lot in this video, okay? Because seemingly no matter how many times I say it, nobody gets it. There is no actual location, okay? I leave a pinned comment on the short and nobody reads it. People even replying to that comment that said there was no physical location asking where it was going to be built. Guys, it's really happening, okay? You'll be able to order it, but you can only order it online through food delivery apps, just like how they handle Mr. Beast Burger, okay? I just hope that this stuff is actually seasoned, okay? I may be white, but I do have taste buds. In at 9, Scott Cawthon. Apparently a lot of people think that after Scott retired, Steel Wool ended up getting the copyright to FNAF, but this couldn't be further from the truth. As you can see on the announcement as well as any image of the logo for this delivery service, it does maintain that FNAF and all of its components are still under the copyright of Scott Cawthon. Virtual Dining Concepts website even says that it partnered with Scott and not anybody else in order to make this delivery service come to life. So yeah, I mean there's not much else to say about this, okay, but Scott is the only person on the FNAF side, at least as far as we know currently, that is involved in the process. Mr. Beast isn't involved, Steel Wool seemingly isn't involved since they haven't mentioned it at all since they only make money off Security Breach and Help Wanted. So yeah, okay, Scott is still the copyright owner and owner of the series, and I'm pretty sure that even for the next part of the series it will remain that way. He may not be involved that much, but whoever the series is handed off to won't have the copyright or the ownership. It will just be stuff that is pre-approved by Scott. In at 8, Twitter. There isn't really a lot of new information since we last updated you in the previous short on the subject, the second one, not the first one. However, the restaurant still have an official Twitter account known as @Fazbear's Pizza, and based on their account details, they've actually been planning this since January of last year at least, considering that that's when the account joined. You can also sign up for email and text reminders on their website, freddyfazbearspizza.com, and they've been responding to quite a few people on Twitter, but not me, unfortunately. It's kind of annoying, really. But they also haven't sent out any text reminders since the last video as well. Like, I signed up for text reminders, haven't gotten one, which really makes me believe that this was only meant to kind of course correct since the announcement came early thanks to the tweet that had the leak that blew up. Okay? Virtual Dining Concepts really needed to make sure that their website didn't have the information about upcoming projects available for just anyone to see, especially when the fanbase surrounding the delivery service is as intense as this one. This may have sprung up thanks to people searching for ARG clues in the wake of MatPat's last FNAF theory video about the Fazbear Frights books before he released his Please Stop video, which in my mind is the most likely scenario of how this was found, but since the account hasn't tweeted in a week now, I'm pretty sure it was just made public so that they might as well like lean into the fact that we already knew about it, so yeah. And it's 7, Burke and Hare. The Burke and Hare murders were 16 serial killings committed over a period of about 10 months in 1828 in Edinburgh, Scotland. The two men who committed these killings, last names Burke and Hare, were doing it because they also sold the corpses to Robert Knox for dissection at his anatomy lectures. There's actually a shortage of corpses in Edinburgh, and thus people actually started grave robbing and selling the corpses rather than selling the possessions, since a loophole in the system only considered it a theft if the body was taken with its clothes. Naked corpses were fine to take though, apparently. They didn't really think that one through. These two were killing in the name of science, something that we suspect William was doing as well. However, they actually were in a messed up way contributing to the furthering of science, whereas William is only doing it for his own selfish reasons and to become immortal. After Hare was given immunity to confess to the murders so that they could convict Burke, Burke was sentenced to death. Shortly afterwards, his corpse was dissected and his skeleton was displayed at the Anatomical Museum of Edinburgh Medical School, where, as of 2021, it actually still remains. Oh, and by the way, the reason they're known as Burke and Hare was because both of their first names are William. Yeah. So maybe Afton's wife is named something similar. And at 6, no relation. Xblue is a YouTube group that has been working on making multiple FNAF locations real. They've done FNAF 4 and recently seemingly completed a recreation of FNAF 1, despite their channel description saying in progress, but their video saying that it's done. So maybe they're adding the finishing touches right now. The YouTube channel, to my knowledge, has no affiliation with virtual dining concepts or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. However, their videos are incredibly cool and interesting, so if you want to see their rendition of a real FNAF, go check them out on YouTube, okay? I'm sure that if you're this deep into the FNAF algorithm, you've already seen it, but I might as well point you in their direction anyway, okay? Go subscribe to them. They're pretty cool. However, they do not have any relation to virtual dining concepts or this delivery service as far as I know, okay? There also is no real location for this delivery service to operate from, again, so their videos have nothing to do with this announcement. Honestly, the announcement seems like it was rushed, again, because we ended up finding out thanks to the website having the information, then everyone started tweeting about it. But we were like, actually, we were 2 days late to the party on that short. By the way, that was a whole other thing that was 2 days before, and I was like, oh, we should probably release a short. And besides, if they were affiliated, wouldn't they have made the FNAF 1 location first instead of second after FNAF 4? Or wouldn't they just have not posted it on YouTube because, you know, NDAs, legal stuff, Scott loving the element of surprise? Yeah, I think so too. Halfway through into number 5, Arthur Gary Bishop. Arthur Gary Bishop was an American serial killer in 1983, and as a result of a routine police investigation, he confessed to the murders of 5 young boys between 1979 and 1983. Bishop was born in Hinckley, Utah, and was the eldest of 6 brothers. Bishop was raised as a devout Latter-day Saint, Mormon, and was an Eagle Scout and an honors student, which is already suspicious in comparison to Afton, given that Afton was also regarded as intelligent given his talent for animatronics, especially in the 80s, and his passion for business. But not only that, Bishop also operated under an alias. Bishop was arrested for embezzlement in February of 1978 and given a 5-year suspended sentence, but he skipped his parole and fled to Salt Lake City, living under the alias of Roger Downs. Under this alias, Bishop would then kill 5 boys between 1979 and 1983. It's also interesting that multiple key dates in Bishop's life line up closely to releases of FNAF games. On July 14th, 1993, he was arrested, and FNAF 4 came out on July 23rd, 9 days after that. Well, not in the same year, but you know what I mean. Bishop's first kill was on October 14th, 1979, and Sister Location was released on October 7th. I mean, it's not concrete, but it's certainly interesting. Plus, also he was caught in 1983, the same year that Crying Child was bit. In at 4, no animatronics. Guys, I cannot stress this enough, there is no actual location, meaning that there won't be any animatronics that you can meet, unless your Uber Eats driver wants to go the extra mile and for some reason has a spare FNAF costume laying in his trunk or in his backpack. I don't really think it's gonna happen, and you know what, if they do have a spare one, that's gonna be questionable. Obviously things can change, like they may have a uniform or something to give to the drivers, but I can pretty much guarantee that that's not going to happen. Yeah, especially not like that, okay? If Mr. Beast even doesn't do that with Mr. Beast Burger and it's Mr. Beast, I don't think that they're gonna be doing it for anyone else, okay? Sorry guys, but you won't be meeting any actual animatronics unless some seriously hardcore drivers go all out, or there's some secret ARG elements that Scott plans on including that we have no idea about, okay? But also, that's not me saying that there is an ARG. I don't fully believe that there is, but the appearance of a Freddy Fazbear's delivery service after the community had been told that no non-official business would participate is very sus in my opinion, okay? Scott is a sussy baka, all aboard the sus bus. Plus, it said that the pizza rolls are gonna have game tie-ins. So, unless that's like a name, that's additionally sus. Dude, it's like I'm seeing this delivery service vent all over Skeld. Getting close to the end in number 3, Thomas Lee Dillon. Thomas Lee Dillon was a serial sniper found guilty of killing 5 men. Again, with the 5. Directed by voices in his head, Dillon killed people randomly. According to attending psychiatrists, Dillon's delusions of grandeur spilled over into the reality of his life and the lives of his victims. His victims were killed by a high-powered rifle while they participated in outdoor activities, sometimes hundreds of miles from Dillon's home. Authorities did not link the killings to Dylan until he actually sent a letter to a local paper. After the FBI put together a criminal profile of the killer, a friend of Dylan's actually brought it to the attention of the authorities, which in my mind is very close to the story of William Afton. The amount of victims, the authorities only investigating those murders after they got tipped off by a friend of the killer, in Afton's case that being Henry, the delusions or the voices in his head could be him being possessed. But honestly, a whole load of these people are just so much like William, it's terrifying. And ultimately, in at number 2, no Mr. Beast. I've seen a load of comments about people saying, why would Mr. Beast do this, or making jokes like Mr. Beast is gonna do a whoever kills 5 kids first gets $1 million video. But Mr. Beast has no affiliation with Virtual Dining Concepts, which is the company making this delivery service possible, okay? Mr. Beast doesn't own it, he doesn't have any stake in it from what I know, he has nothing to do with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. I don't want there to be any issues that come up because people think that he is affiliated with this, okay? Jimmy has nothing to do with Freddy's. He only has affiliation with Mr. Beast Burger, which was also made possible by Virtual Dining Concepts. Me introducing it like that was just that you know that it was real. The company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible also is making FNAF possible. The two aren't related, except just because the company made both happen. I don't know if that makes you disappointed or happy about it, but there is no connection to Mr. Beast whatsoever unless they end up sponsoring him for a video so that they can like get the word out even more, or so that he can make like a version of the restaurant for a video and invite FNAF tubers or FNAF fans over for a chance to win it in a similar fashion to how he invited people over to win a chocolate factory. But even if that video does happen, it will only be a sponsorship deal and not an actual partnership, okay? It's like just like when YouTubers get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, okay? It's just a sponsor. We don't have any stake in Raid, okay? It would only be a sponsorship deal, okay? And the location that he would make wouldn't actually be a restaurant. It would only be used for that video and then it would be dismantled. Possibly even in the same place that he built the chocolate factory, assuming that he's renting like that unit or owns it. And finally, in at number 1, delivery service. I cannot emphasize this enough, okay? I saw a lot of people commenting saying that there's a real location finally, or asking where it is, or why would they do that. It's not that kind of restaurant. It's not a restaurant, it's a delivery service. Just like how you can't actually walk into a Mr. Beast Burger, there will be no physical location for you to visit. The whole point of Virtual Dining Concepts is that existing kitchens have the ability to make these, and they can opt in, turning them into outlets for these recipes. Like when you order Mr. Beast Burger, there is no actual Mr. Beast Burger restaurant. It's something that like a Wendy's or something is like making the food either in their kitchen or in a food truck on their property, but you can't actually like go up to that food truck and order. It will be the same concept for this place, okay, but with places that already serve these kinds of food. As it says on the Virtual Dining Concepts website, quote, "Don't change who you are. We have brands that fit your current kitchen, suppliers, and way of working." So, there is, and most likely will not be, a real Freddy Fazbear's unless Scott intends to make it like a 2-week special location in the future for potential lore or whatever, okay? But there is none at the moment, and there won't be when this launches. You just order this on food delivery apps, okay? No.